بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم أسأل الله تبارك وتعالى أن يجعل نياتنا خالصة لوجه الكريم. I praise Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. I thank Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala for His countless endowments upon us. And I ask Allah to send blessings and salutations upon our Sayyiduna Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the master of the prophets and messengers on the day of judgment. Inshallah ta'ala, we're going to complete this text today and reading, because the two subjects left, we're going to be covering them later in more detail. So we can just complete this text because fasting is coming. We don't need to go in a lot of details about that. We just need to become aware of it. And as zakah is something that what is covered here, we only need to know really one part of it, most of us, and the details of it we can cover later, inshallah ta'ala, in the next two texts. But what I want to do is I want to get us through some books, right? And in order to do that, we don't want to do a lot of details, because I've been thinking about us having a structure that we're familiar with. And I think one of the best ways to accomplish that is abundant reading, right? Together, book after book after book after book after book, until we have curriculums or a series of books that we're aware of. If we concentrate too much on one particular text, we'll never reach that. And I was looking through my own library, and I was like, man, if we going at the pace we're going, how they're ever going to get through the most of the books that we need, right? And to be just a part of our library and studies that we have with the books of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah and the various sciences. And I thought about the same way we did it. With our teachers, we used to just read, because it wasn't about necessarily entertainment. We would read. Some books the Sheikh would explain, then we would read. And then after a while, several years, we were very familiar with the Islamic library. So I said, well, do the same thing you were taught. So inshallah, that is my intention. And I would hope some of you, or most of you, have the fortitude to make it through such study. But I think it's very important that we cover more ground in our reading, inshallah. Bismillah. Let us begin with Al-Fatiha to the soul of the author, rahimahullah. Al-Fatiha. We reached up to the section of az-zakat on page 56. Mm.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. The author, may Allah Ta'ala have mercy on him, said, Zakat. The categories of wealth from which zakat is obligatory are six.
So zakat is that obligatory amount of money or property that one must pay when one reached a certain amount of that particular property. So zakat, you can say, is a specific amount paid on a specific amount of a specific item. Mm.
Number one, livestock. Number
Mhm.
two, gold and silver coins. Number three, tenths, i.e., raisins, dried dates, and grains. Number four, trade related wealth. Its obligation is 1/4 of a tenth, 2.5% of the value of trade goods.
Excuse me.
And number five, buried treasure. And number six, ore.
And the money that we deal with uh, would be covered under number two, gold and silver coins. For those scholars who took zakat on paper money. So that was how it would be estimated according to gold and silver. Mm. Nam, go ahead.
Fasting. How it becomes obligatory. Fasting Ramadan becomes obligatory via one of five matters. The first is by completing 30 days of Sha'ban. The second is by citing the new moon for the person who saw it, even if they are normally corrupt. The third is by it being established by an upright witness for someone who did not see it. The
Mm-hmm.
fourth is by being informed by an individual who is trusted to transmit information and entrusted to do so, whether or not one believes it to be true, or by being informed by an individual who is trusted, provided that one considers it to be true. The fifth is by estimating that Ramadan has entered through personal reasoning for someone to whom Ramadan's entry is unclear, such as one held in confinement.
So one of the important matters that we should consider in Ramadan, and we'll talk about it way before Ramadan comes, inshallah ta'ala, in more detail, is that Ramadan is established by seeing the new moon, not by calculations. And one should be uh, certain that the new moon was sighted, and be careful about many people who rely solely on calculations. Even people sometimes who you think are citing, they're not. They're relying on calculations themselves, or they're relying on sightings that are not verifiable. So it is important for the month of Ramadan that you ensure that the new moon is sighted by the naked eye. Mm.
Prerequisites for its soundness, excuse me. The prerequisites for its soundness are four things. Number one, being a Muslim.
Which
Number
is
two,
very important in order for the fasting to be valid. One has to be a Muslim. From this, we know that it is not permissible to tell a non-Muslim to fast during the month of Ramadan. Why? Because it's not permissible to order someone to do an act of worship which is done in an invalid manner. So if one fasts with the intention of fasting Ramadan, but one is not a Muslim, that's an invalid act of worship because the conditions for its validity are not fulfilled. So one doesn't order one to do that. So you don't say, come fast. You don't say that. You say, embrace Islam and then fast. Mm.
number two, of sound mind. Number 3, free of menstruation and its likes.
Mm-hmm.
And number 4, knowing that the time is open for fasting.
Mm-hmm.
Prerequisites for its obligation. The preconditions for it being obligatory are 5 things. Number 1, being a Muslim. Number 2, legally responsible. Number 3,
Belief means that the person is sane, pubescent, and has heard the basic call to Islam. So someone who is not mukallaf is not obligated to fast. However, when the person becomes mumayyiz, 7 years or older, then the parents or the guardian of that child is obligated to order them to fast. So the obligation is on who? The guardian, not the child. If the guardian does not order the child to fast, then that guardian is sinful, not the child. Mm.
number 3, capable. Number 4, healthy. And number 5, a resident, i.e., not traveling.
Mm-hmm.
Essential elements. Its essential elements are 3 things. Number 1, an intention during the night for each obligatory day of fasting.
And this is after Maghrib, one intends to fast Ramadan for the next day. For those who may find that difficult, there is a dispensation within the Maliki school that one could intend to fast the entire 30 days of the month of Ramadan. So, for the one who may have an difficulty intending every day, they should take this dispensation out of caution. Mm,
Number 2, omitting anything that breaks the fast out of remembrance and choice without being ignorant or excused.
mhm,
And number 3, the individual who fasts. Missed fast.
mm.
In addition to making up the fast, performing a major expiation and discretionary discipline are obligatory for someone who spoiled a complete day of fasting during Ramadan, provided intercourse is unlawful due to fasting itself.
So, this expiation and discretionary discipline in the Shafi'i school is only for someone who broke their fast due to relations in the daylight hours. In other schools, for instance, the Hanafi school, it's for anything you break the fast. So it's much more severe. So uh, one should be aware of that. Mm,
Abstaining from fast breakers is obligatory in addition to making up the fast in 6 contexts.
mm.
The first is during Ramadan, but not elsewhere. For someone who breaks it is a transgression. The second is someone who omitted the intention during the night for an obligatory fast. The third is someone who ate while
So if
thinking
one misses the intention, one does not say I don't fast. One still refrains from food and drink in the daylight, not with the intention of fasting, but abstaining from what the people abstain from, and one has to make that day up.
the
Mm,
third is someone who ate while thinking the night remains, but it turns out to be the opposite. The fourth is someone who broke his fast
such
while thinking.
a person is not sinful, but they still have to make up the fast. Mm,
The fourth is someone who broke his fast while thinking that sunset had occurred, but it turns out to be the opposite.
mhm.
The fifth is someone who, on what he thinks is the 30th day of Shaban, finds out it is the first of Ramadan. The sixth is someone who ingests water as a consequence of inhaling or sniffling excessively during purification.
Mm.
Sniffing, excuse me, excessively during purification. Invalidators. Fasting is invalidated by apostasy, menstruation, postnatal bleeding, or birth, insanity, even for even for an instant, losing consciousness and
I
intoxication
want
when
to this thing important because we live in a time of freedom in people's minds as if there's no religious rules. In all books of fiqh, according to all schools, you have a section of apostasy. And some of the scholars from the family of the Prophet ﷺ in Hadramaut, when they wrote books summarized like this, they wrote sections in these small books about apostasy when they saw it was prevalent among the people. Among them, Al Habib Abdullah bin Hussein bin Tahir, and also the Mufti of the Shafi'is of Mecca, Al Habib Muhammad bin Hussein Al Habashi. They specifically wrote in their respective books about this issue. And we live in a time where people are so free in their opposition to their desires. So, whatever their desires don't like, they're opposed to it, even if it's the right thing, even if it's obligatory. And sometimes that following one's desires can lead one to a state of disbelief. So one should be careful that when it comes to the religious rules, one does not deny them out of this desire to be free and do whatever you want. As someone says to me quite often, you got to understand people want to live Islam the way they want to live it. No, people need to live Islam the way Islam is supposed to be lived. Even though people have this thing, but that could lead to apostasy because sometimes out of one's desire to do what one wants, one may say something or even believe something or do something that nullifies their Islam. And it exists. Even if the punishment in this world for such thing doesn't exist, the actual ruling exists. And we all should protect ourselves from that, as Imam Nawawi mentioned. Mm.
losing consciousness and intoxication when they are themselves transgressions, provided they cover the entire daytime. Breaking the fast during Ramadan. The categories of breaking the fast during Ramadan are four: obligatory, like for a woman who is menstruating or has postnatal bleeding; permissible, like for someone who is traveling or sick;
Mm.
neither of the two, like someone who is
So
insane.
obligatory meaning that the one who is menstruating or in postnatal bleeding, it's haram for them to fast. Mm. So they have to break the fast. Mm.
Permissible, like for someone who is traveling or sick.
And such a person, when we say permissible, they have the dispensation to not fast. If they fast, it is valid. Mm.
Neither of the two, like someone who is insane.
Mhm.
Unlawful,
Such a person is not accountable.
unlawful, like someone who delayed making up Ramadan despite being able to do so until the time becomes too short for it, i.e., the makeup.
Mm.
Categories of
Which is
broken
the next Ramadan meaning. Mm.
categories of broken fasts. The divisions of breaking the fast are also four. The first requires a makeup and an expiation. There are two subdivisions. The first subdivision is breaking the fast out of fear for someone else. The second subdivision is breaking the fast combined with delaying its makeup even though one was able to do so before the next Ramadan came.
Allahumma salli.
The second division requires a makeup without a fidya, and they are numerous. For example, someone who lost consciousness. The third requires a fidya without a makeup. It is an elderly individual who cannot fast. The fourth requires neither. It is someone who is insane and whose insanity does not result from a transgression. What does not break the fast? The things that do not invalidate the fast, even though they reach internal cavities, are seven. 1 through 3. What reaches the abdomen out of forgetfulness, ignorance, or compulsion.
Mm,
Number 4. Saliva passing over something stuck between his teeth that he is not able to spit out. Number 5. Dirt in the path that reaches the abdomen. Number 6 through 7. Particles of wheat being sifted, a flying fly, or the like reaching the abdomen. And Allah Ta'ala knows best what is right.
mhm.
Concluding remarks. We beseech Allah Ta'ala the Generous, through the prestige of His graceful Prophet, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, to remove me from this world as a believer, and to do and to do likewise with my parents, loved ones, and whoever is affiliated with me. And we beseech Him that He forgive me and them for our major and minor sins. May the prayers of Allah Ta'ala be upon our Master Muhammad ibn Abdullah bin Abdul Muttalib bin Hashim bin Abdul Manafin, the messenger of Allah Ta'ala,
Abdul Manaf, go ahead.
the messenger of Allah Ta'ala, the entirety of creation, the messenger of engagements, the beloved to Allah, who is the beginning and ending, and upon his folk and companions altogether. And praise is for Allah Ta'ala, Lord of the worlds.
وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. With that, we have completed this book for a second time, Safinatun Najah. And inshallah, I would say sometime we'll give maybe 10 days. What's today? Today is Thursday. So let's say uh, within 10 days, yeah, we'll start the next book, which will be Al-Maqasid of Imam An-Nawawi. I put the link here so everyone could see where to get the next book. So this is the next book we'll do. And the link is in the box. And I figure if we give about 10 days, people who order it, it will give them time to get there and to them. But my intention, as I said, is we're going to go through a curriculum of books in the Shafi'i fiqh. And then I say, as you go through book to book to book, inshallah, you'll have a good command of your acts of worship. Uh, and we'll review as well in reading the previous books. So, what two books did we cover in fiqh? Or three books in fiqh we covered already. Would anyone remember the three books that we covered already? So we covered three, and all of them were in ibadat, and some had a little bit of other matters. What three books did we cover already? Let me see if you're tracking. Who knows? Do we remember? Encompassing epistle, right, Malika? That's one. A risala to Jamia. What else? So we covered this already. So we covered this, and we'll review it as well. Ladders of success. Good, y'all on it. Okay, mashallah. And we covered this. So we started with this book, we finished. Then we did this book, and now we did this book. So that's 3 books that you have. And so we're moving to Al-Maqasid next, which I don't have any pictures of. And keep these books, and we've been looking through the Reliance of the Traveler, but we didn't do the fixed section of it, which is really the essence of the book. We've been doing notes. So what we'll do for the next 10 days is we'll have my scattered readings, where we'll read different parts of different books. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. For the next 10 days until we start that. So among the books we'll be reading the, let me get over here. So we'll be reading the revival of the religious sciences. We'll continue in that. We will be reading in the Reliance of the Traveler, and also Riyadus as-Salihin. So for the next 10 days, those are the 3 books we'll be reading in. So this Riyadus as-Salihin will continue. And Revival of the Religious Sciences, and some notes and points from the Reliance of the Traveler. So that's our yeah. This will be the first time we're covering Al-Maqasid. But our intention is that we have a full overview of all the books in the Shafi'i school that are available in English. Because once we finish them, I want to start introducing us to Arabic books, right? So that we'll start reading in the Arabic books, inshallah. That would be good. But let's finish what is available for us in English. And then by that time, we're sound in the rulings, and we kind of have a general understanding of Islamic jurisprudence and the school and the chapters and the sections and the conditions and the integrals and the invalidators. Then I think it would be nice to start to see what is available in the madhab. That would be real good, inshallah ta'ala. So with that, are there any questions about so far what we covered? Please feel free to ask, inshallah. Let us make dua for our brothers and sisters in Florida. They had the storm or hurricane, and everyone I checked was safe. Our brother Farouk and his mother, I checked with them last night. They were fine. I saw one that was kind of alarming. Did Tampa get hit real bad? I saw someone with pictures. I didn't know if that was their house or not, but oh man, it was very bad. But let's make dua for those people in Florida, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them relief and ease during this difficult time, بيصير أسرار الفاتحة. الله. Mm. And also tonight, I remind you it's Thursday. Oh. I forgot. We're actually going to do some reading in the Quran be held as well. I forgot about it. So we will start talking about it. What I want to do first is I want to go through those areas that I think need to be corrected in terms of Aqidah. Because I was hoping that that issue would be cleared up, but I think we could just fix it, you know, and we take some time doing it, and that could go across most translations, inshallah. I want to say something about that, right? I did mention it already. I said it. Didn't I tell y'all? Didn't I mention that people they only address usually issues that are concerns to them, not concerns for other people? And that's me giving a good interpretation to what something that may uh, seem bad for us. You know what I mean? Like, that's just reality. And what is IYKYK? I have no idea what that means. I'm really out of the loop. IYKYK. Malika, you have to tell me what that means. Uh, yeah, so we'll also address that. So there'll be scattered readings, and we'll talk about that issue, inshallah ta'ala. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Tayyib, no questions. We're good. All right, tonight at 7:30. Yeah, 7:30. Oh, if you know, you know. I would have never figured that out. But it's a matter of learning in terms of what to properly believe. That is not a problem for you, I guess, once you learn how to properly believe. I would say always in these cases, avoid excesses. Everyone didn't learn the same. When I learned, our focus was heavily on Aqidah. Some other people, when they were learning, their focus was heavily on Arabic language. Some people's focus was heavily on Hadith. Some people's focus was heavily on al-fiqh, right? Some people's focus was heavily on tasawwuf and dhikr and serving the sheikh and attending the mawlid. Everybody had different things that their focus were on. That doesn't mean they neglected totally everything else. That just wasn't their heavy focus. So for them, those issues that one who's in that field has focused in that field are going to be highlighted for them, but not for the others. So they may have a general understanding of something, but not detailed, right? It's the nature of study. So when you see our emphasis on the issue of Aqidah, that's because that's where we heavily focused on in our studies. Alhamdulillah. So Sheikh Yahya al-Baltimori will continue his lessons today at 7:30. And inshallah, we'll see you then or tomorrow. Tomorrow for me, inshallah. How do we address the Wahhabi that want to debate the Mawlid on Facebook? Ignore them. Don't waste your time. Really. I mean, if they don't want to celebrate the Mawlid, they don't have to celebrate the Mawlid. Fine. You know, some stuff is like not worth the fight. We have bigger fish to fry, as they say. You know, so it's not obligatory to celebrate Mawlid. That's it. If they want to say the Mawlid is bid'ah, define bid'ah according to the scholars and teach them the meaning of al-bid'ah according to the scholars of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Right? That's more beneficial than just talking about the Mawlid itself. If you just talked about their issue is the Mawlid is bid'ah, right? Or shirk. I don't know if they're going to that far, but maybe some have. So let's talk about the meaning of bid'ah according to Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Teach them that, right? And we cover that, right? So tell them that. But debating about the Mawlid, I wouldn't even waste my time. Because if they understood the meaning of bid'ah and how Ahl Sunnah understand bid'ah, then we wouldn't have this discussion. But since they don't, they need to learn something. So teach them the meaning of bid'ah according to our scholars, like Al-Nawawi, like Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, like Al-Iz ibn Abdus-Salam. Then that will remove the whole issue. And Allah knows best. That would be my approach. Can you speak quickly on the validity and necessity of making bay'ah to a sheikh? From observation, none of us, this is my personal opinion, from observation of most of us that attend these lessons, from my observation, none of us should be making bay'ah to no sheikh. Though it is permissible, though it is valid, but my personal, and I'm speaking from my side, it's not an obligation. So we're talking now recommended matters. From my side of that, until you learn your personal obligatory knowledge and you can distinguish between lawful and unlawful, you shouldn't take bay'ah to nobody. And from my observation, we still have a lot to learn before we do that. That's my honest opinion. You know, but is it permissible? Yes, it's valid. But I say the one who does that should learn their obligations first, because the one who does it without learning that opens themselves up to charlatans, because they don't even know what a sheikh is. They don't know what a sheikh should be doing. They don't know the rules of the religion. So the sheikh would have them doing unlawful things. And they would be following them in that because they have bay'ah. And they won't even learn because they have bay'ah. And I know many of people who have bay'ah to a sheikh who's not a sheikh. Right? So they have bay'ah to a sheikh who is not a sheikh. But we live in the world of do what you like Humpty Humpty or something. Do what you like. So the sheikh is the sheikh, even if he's not a sheikh. Uh, uh, Even if we learn those options, we don't have to make bay'ah. Bay'ah is not obligatory. It's not obligatory to take bay'ah to a no sheikh. That's not an obligation. That's what I meant by knowing the rules. That's not an obligation. And no one ever said it's an obligation to take bay'ah to a sheikh. That's not the case. And remember, the sheikh should not let you take bay'ah if you're not available for that. Meaning you don't even know. You shouldn't even do it. I know our shuyukh, they wouldn't do that. You go to take bay'ah and they be like, you need to learn. You need to learn. That's your bay'ah. Go learn your obligations. Here. Go study. Teach them the 13 attributes or the 20 attributes. That's how you start teaching them. Teach them poems about the creed, small things they can memorize. That's how you begin with the children. Bay'ah is when someone makes allegiance to follow a sheikh in all of their spiritual matters and worldly matters, where the sheikh is like overseeing all of your spiritual travel. So you follow him. Why are y'all so concerned about Bay'ah? I don't understand. What's the big deal? I'm lost. What is this big concept of Bay'ah? Why are we so concerned about that? I am totally lost. And to whom is this obligatory bay'ah to? To the Khalifa? We don't have a Khalifa. Is someone talking about they're the Khalifa of the Muslims? And I missed it? Is the Mahdi returned again? I missed it. You must have bay'ah. To whom? To you? La ilaha illallah. Since it's such an obligation, to whom? Or it's up to me to pick whoever I like? Come on, this is foolishness. When you have Amir al-Mu'mineen, a Khalifa of the Muslims, then you have to take bay'ah to him. But who is that Amir al-Mu'mineen and who is that Khalifa? And who assigned you as such? And if you say bay'ah in your tariqah, I don't have to follow your tariqah from the start. So what are you talking about? That it's obligatory to take bay'ah with such and such a person. I don't even have to follow his tariqah at all, period. That's not an obligation in the beginning. I don't have to follow his spiritual path. He might not even be able to spiritually guide me. How does he become obligatory to take bay'ah? It's talking about the Khalifa of the Muslims when he exists. We've never learned of a tariqah for Imam al-Ghazali. No. From what we've learned, no. He wasn't in a tariqah. They practiced tasawwuf and they lived it, and obviously, but as a specific spiritual path, most of those spiritual paths came after the time of Imam al-Ghazali. The spiritual paths that we talk about today, they were developed after the time of Imam al-Ghazali. I'm telling you, I warn you, I warn you. And let me warn you. Let me warn you, warn you, warn you, warn you. Please listen to me very closely. We do believe in a tasawwuf. We believe in the path of a tasawwuf. We believe in the awliya of Allah. We believe in pious people and righteous sheikhs. Yes. But we live in a time of a bunch of phonies. Dhikr people, singing people, chanting people, groupie people, not Sufi people. By far, unfortunately, that's what we live among. A bunch of fake Sufis who don't know their religion and got all kinds of nonsense going on. That's not tasawwuf. So for us, I warn you, it's not tasawwuf. It's human beings following their desires. And you got to protect yourself from that. The only way to do that is by learning the rules of the religion first, right? You have to learn first. And people don't learn. They just go be Sufi. I met a guy. This guy doesn't know his basic obligation, and he's a sheikh. I was like, what? Who did that? He's a sheikh. He don't even know the rules of prayer, and he's the sheikh. And has his tariqah. And a bunch of people walking around with dhikr beads, big dhikr beads, following him. This dude don't even know the rules of salah. Think about that. Someone authorized him as a sheikh, and he got murid. You can't make this stuff up. Uh, we already did Zakiya Muhammad. So I'm saying that has nothing to do with tasawwuf, right? That has nothing to do with real tasawwuf. Uh, but there are good sheikhs, good scholars, who will make sure you learn. And if you learn and you find one, mashallah, go for it. 1 second. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah. So just be careful. That's all I say. Tariqah is the formal structure of a spiritual path and the wayfaring of a particular sheikh and a methodology of training people, which is all deduced from the Quran and the Sunnah. That's all. So the training of a student in adorning oneself with praiseworthy attributes and removing blameworthy attributes from the Sunnah. The methodology by which different teachers help students is all within the Sunnah, right? That's like it's the same question. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam never said a hadith is sahih or hasan or da'if. Did you hear anyone complaining about the classification of hadith? The Prophet never said this is hadith sahih, this is hadith da'if, this is hadith hasan. He never said that. He never said that these obligations are fard, mandub, makruh, mustahab. He never used those terminologies. The Prophet ﷺ never read the Quran with dots and vowels and fatha and dhamma, none of that, right? So these are sciences of the religion that are known. Right? So they say there's no pain, there's no intention to terminology. It is what is fitting within the rules of the religion. I know we have a long way to go in our learning. Don't worry about it. That's why we study. We have a long way to go. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine, inshallah. Barakallahu bikum. May Allah reward you all, increase you, and inshallah, we'll see you tonight. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.